What is the show that you're doing?
We're doing a wonderful melodrama called Curse You Jack Dalton by Wilbur Braun. It was written, the original copyright is something like 1936, and so it dates back there a little ways. And it's a one-act, so it moves very quickly with all of the standard melodramatic dialogue.
Do you find dealing with students today, now this is a high school group, right?
Correct.
Okay. That they are in fact not particularly familiar with this style of theater?
I found that there were a lot of them who had never seen a melodrama, had no contact with melodramas in any way, either through readings or through school at all. And so it took a little while to explain to them what a melodrama was and what kind of atmosphere a melodrama is supposed to have. I'm just thinking of what samples of melodrama would be out there, and the only thing I can come up with is the Dudley Do-Right cartoons on Rocky and Bullwinkle. That's it. Yeah. And some of these kids are not even old enough to remember Dudley Do-Right and the evil villain who twirls his mustache.
How did they respond to it?
At first they were a little confused. They didn't quite know what it was that I was looking for when I was giving stage direction. But after going through the dialogue a few times, they began to get a feel for what it was, and they really began to enjoy it and just started hamming it up, which is exactly what a melodrama demands.
Did you find that that some of them would come to you and say, well, what's my motivation for wanting to foreclose on the widow, or wanting to get some more modern technique in there?
They didn't say that as much as in frustration they would say, oh, how am I supposed to say this line? And at that point I had to explain to them that in a melodrama, 9 times out of 10, what your body says is more important than the words that come out, because the hand movements and the over-dramatic facial expressions and the taking of extra time between lines was something that they were not familiar with. They had done a play recently where the most important thing was get the line out, say the line, say the line, say the line, keep it moving. But in this particular play, it's been a real challenge to get them to slow down, feel every word, feel every line, think about what the body is saying at the same time that the words are coming out, or stop what you're saying, do the body motion, and then pick up your line again. It was a real challenge to get them to think, slow down, slow down.
You know, if I were to direct a melodrama today, it would almost be like teaching someone classical Greek theater or Japanese theater. I mean, you'd really have to create this artificial, but at the same time, very rich kind of characterization. And
absolutely, absolutely. Melodramas are an art form in themselves.
Now, Frankenmuth used to have a melodrama sometimes, at least in the last few years, I think they did. Did any of the kids at all have a familiarity?
There were a couple who knew what a melodrama was, but they had never actually performed in one.
How did you teach them? What kind of framework did you give them?
I stood on the stage and I said, this is what I want, and I went through the back of the hand to the forehead and the hands to the face and the handkerchief movements and all. I actually got on the stage and said, look, this is what I want. And they are such quick learners, and they're so enthusiastic that they just picked it up very quickly.
Do you find that there are people who are working with you now that you look at and realize they are going through the exact same thing that you went through?
It's interesting that you should ask me that, because someone asked me recently, do you realize that you could be having the same influence on any one of those kids that was had on you and gave you your love and your fire for the theater and for drama, and you could be inspiring the next big name star for Broadway or whatever, and it made my palms sweaty to think about it. But that's exciting to think that someone might take inspiration that I give them and really do something with it, go somewhere with it. That would be a wonderful fulfillment for me.
And even if we're not talking a Meryl Streep, I mean, even if it's just somebody who takes this love, and I think it sometimes it's not important so much what it is you fall in love with, just that you fall in love with something, that you care about something.
Everybody should have a dream. Everyone should have a dream and pursue it. It's the stuff of life. And without it, well, without a vision, the people perish.
Yeah, yeah. I know Tom Fielder, who does our Flint Theater Live segment, which we're kicking off tonight on the show, and who we had on an earlier show, talked about the same thing. Now, Tom has gone on, he's been on Broadway, he's been a working professional for many years, and Tom talked about the same thing. It was just in high school, just playing around, and all of a sudden, ooh, this is fun, I want to do this.
It's a whole different world. Yeah. It's a whole different world. And I think that was one of the things that I thought was so great when I was in high school, is it was a place I could escape to and become someone else, even if it were only for 6 or 8 weeks, to actually become another character. And I discovered that I know how to get inside another character. I know how to feel what another character might feel. I know how to discover what a person might feel in a situation just by putting myself there. And I don't think that that's a real common thing, but I think that the people who have it ought to do something with it. I think they owe the world that.
Now, you're working with high school kids. There's sometimes a self-consciousness at that age. They're going through a lot of physical changes and social changes. Do you find that some of the students are a little afraid to stretch out and take a risk and look perhaps silly?
The younger ones, yes. At auditions, there were a few there that I could tell really wanted to be involved. They wanted to be a part of the production. But when I put them on the stage to see what they could do with their feet or to hear what they could do with their voices from the back of the room, I got a lot of this kind of thing where they look at me from behind their shoulders. And it isn't enough to explain to them, you know, don't be afraid, just let it out, let it come out, it's there, just let it out. It isn't enough. It's something they have to experience first and discover is there, and then they can let it out.
What about the crew? In a production like this, do you have people who do the props and the staging and the costume and the makeup and all that?
I have a wonderful crew. In fact, I am so surprised, pleasantly surprised at the talent. They're kids who are willing to be behind the scenes and take care of the lighting. The boy who's doing the lighting is very talented in that area. My publicity crew is chomping at the bit to get on to, you know, selling their ads and whatever it is that they do. I have a young man who is very anxious to get started with set construction because that's something new at Kersley for this age group of kids. They've always rented the backdrops, and this year for this production we're going to build our sets. So I've got one guy who's just standing with his hammer ready to go.
Did you design the set?
Yes, I did.
Is this a chance for you to maybe expand a little bit, do some things you haven't done?
Absolutely. I have been in summer theater, not this past summer, but summer of '89. I got to play a part in Annie out at Swartz Creek Summer Theater. And my schedule wouldn't allow me to do much else but be in it. So this is definitely a chance for me to do some things I hadn't done before.
Are you finding support out of the community, the parents and other people?
Yes, in fact, I think it would be a wonderful idea to start a Kersley Theater Boosters. There's that much interest. And hopefully in the summer, I would like to direct a Kersley Community Theater production, which will be something brand new for Kersley Schools.
Kersley Schools has, in recent years, developed a rather good reputation. I can remember at one time it was not, you know, considered the greatest school in the area, and now it's rather well thought of.
Yes, they are #1 in the state, #10 in the nation for education received per dollar spent, and we're very proud of that.
Well, we're going to take just a second now and go to a commercial, so we'll be right back after this message.